Hey, Miss Marian.
Hey, Miss Regina.
How are you?
I am good today.
Me too. What are we doing?
So,
and who are we?
We are shooting episode 3.
The holiday episode.
The holiday edition
of Two Sisters Knittin Talkin Shit.
And we're excited that you're here with us today.
Every time we say it, it makes us giggle and cackle and laugh.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Well, before we really get into the show, let's give them a run of the show and what we have in store for you today. And we hope that you'll stay to the end. They're going to stay.
Yeah.
They're going to stay.
They've been asking us, when is the next episode?
I know.
So
we have a wonderful, wonderful holiday drink that your girl Regina made that is absolutely delicious. She's going to tell us about that in a second. And you'll have an opportunity to watch us sip on that, and hopefully you'll get something and sip with us. We're going to talk about the holiday drink. We're going to talk a little bit about what's on and off of our needles, any acquisitions that we've made since our last show. And then, what are we going to do, Regina? We're going to answer their burning questions. We got some good ones.
Did we do our poll?
No, the poll, we're going to post the poll in the community tab after the episode airs. So we'll post that and we'll talk about that and have you guys check that at the end. The community poll is really for our name.
Yep.
Our name for our subscribers, so for all of you. And then we'll wrap with an ending question.
Yep.
And I think that'll be our final show for this year, and then we'll come back hot and heavy and strong in the new year. So Regina.
Happy holidays. So, Miss Marian mentioned that I'll be talking about the holiday drink that we are sipping on in our Santa mugs. You see how jolly Santa is, and it's because of what's inside the mug, which is a mulled wine served warm to warm, right? Not hot, but warm. And it's a traditional German drink. It's actually, there's a version of it that's enjoyed throughout Western Europe. The Swedes have their version, the Norwegians have their version, the Swiss have their version. This is a traditional German version. It's called.
And just to let the people know, Regina has a twin.
Yes.
And he lives in Germany. Is this where you got the recipe from?
No. But I did enjoy it when I think the Dutch have a version. So I enjoyed it first when he lived in Amsterdam, and I was like, I gotta make this stuff. So it's traditionally called Glühwein, which is the German word. I think it loosely translates to glow wine, and you will be glowing when you drink it. Let's take a sip now.
Let's take a sip. We didn't cheer, but that's okay.
It's so cozy.
It's delicious. So Regina, did you tell them what was in it?
I did not.
So why don't you tell them what is in it? But I just want to remind the folks, if you check the show notes, we'll have the recipe down there too. So what's in it? Because it is delicious.
It's so you don't have to splurge on the wine. It's a basic red wine. You can use a Cabernet, you can use a Merlot or a Chianti. I think today we used just an $8 bottle of Cabernet,
yeah.
And it has apple cider, a little bit of Cointreau. You can use Grand Marnier or some other orange liqueur or any kind of liqueur. You could even use brandy to kind of liquor it up. I used Cointreau. And then the spices, cardamom pods, clove, cinnamon sticks, allspice, and star anise, and it will have your entire space just smelling festive and wonderful.
Yes.
And then we topped it off with some orange slices and a little squeeze of orange juice.
And it is delicious.
Should we take another sip?
Another sip.
Cheers. Cheers. It's so warm and cozy. So that's what you want
Yummy.
for the holidays.
And hopefully, if you don't have anything to sip while you watch us and you work on your craft, or you just sit and enjoy, pause the video now, get your beverage of choice, and join us back in just a second, because we'll be here.
We have to say that.
We have to say
All right.
that. So what's on and off of our needles? Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
So I have, y'all know I like my cowls. And this is but you know what? I don't know what cowl it is. We'll have to put it in the show notes.
It'll be in the show notes.
But it's basically a cable. It's like one big cable knit cowl. And we have the information. This is I think this yarn is Malabrigo, but we'll make sure it gets in the show notes. So this is for a friend of mine, and the question came up a couple of weeks ago: do I knit for anybody other than celebrities? The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
I knit for my mom, I knit for myself, and this is for a really good friend of mine who has been ill for many weeks. So she's going to get this for Christmas.
She'll enjoy that. That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And I don't have any finished projects to show you. I told Regina said, I don't know why you told them that you were going to finish this thing by November, by Thanksgiving, because that did not happen. I had out-of-town guests in town for the holidays, and they were here, my brother and his family, and it was lovely. I had a wonderful time visiting with them, but they were here for 2 weeks, and it just threw my whole schedule off. So I do not have any finished objects with me, but I do have a sock that I'm working on. This is the first time. I've been knitting for years. I think I told Regina today, it's been over 40 years, and this is the first time that I've ever knit socks. So I'm coming along on my first sock. This is the I Am So Basic sock by Summer Lee. And I'm taking a class at one of the local yarn stores here in Atlanta, the Craftivist, to learn how to knit socks. So this is on the needles, one of many projects that I have. I've not said how many I have on needles, but this is one of many projects that I have on my needles. So that's what's on my needles, and I'll post all of the details because I don't have them here with me today, but I'll post all the details in the show notes too, so you can see the pattern and the yarn in the show notes. And so Regina, what's on your needles?
What's on my needles? So you all already know I have like 50 lamb projects going. And so Marian told me, don't start another project, just finish ones that you have. And I was like, yeah. She doesn't tell me what to do. It means no. So I purchased, well, actually I already had this yarn, but this is about 6 stitches into the open air wrap. It's a pearl.
6 rows?
6 rows. Did I say stitches?
You said stitches.
6 rows
I'm gonna give you
into,
credit.
thank you. 40 years of knitting. I've only been serious for about a year. So boom. Okay. So this is about 6 rows into the open air wrap, which is a pearl Soho pattern. And this is using the what is it? Linen quill yarn. It's a fingering weight, and the color is crocus bud. And so I'm really excited about this project. I think I will make sure it gets to Jennifer Hudson. That's who I might be doing this for. I have other projects, as I said, on needles that are for my family and me and other celebrities. So there it is. There it is.
So I do have a couple of acquisitions. I went to a lovely yarn store that's new, that opened up here in the metro Atlanta area. So for those of you who don't know, Regina and I are in Atlanta, and the name of the yarn store is called Yarn and Notions, and it is in Kennesaw, Georgia, which is a little bit north of Atlanta. So I went there Friday for the very first time. Chanel Naismith is the owner, and she's a lovely individual. So I bought some yarn from her store, and the yarn is a Knitter's Homestead in the color Blossom. And I'm not sure, I bought 3 skeins. I'm not sure, it's fingering weight yarn. I'm not sure what I'm gonna make, but I might join you in your scarf or some type of a scarf or shawl. So that's that. And then I got some lovely pins that Channy makes. I won't go through them all for the sake of time here, but I'll just show you one yarn pin that she makes. I've got 2 cats, and so I got this one, local yarn store lovers, but it reminded me of my 2 cats. So just wanted to show that to you both there. And the others will be, I'll take a picture and post everything up on our Instagram page. So if you aren't following us there, you should follow us there too.
You know, I mentioned that Marian told me not to put anything else on needles to finish a project, and I have to share 2 things.
Okay.
The one is, in our first episode, I shared that one of the projects I had on needles was the Stardust wrap using a prairie yarn by Blue Sky in elderberry. And there were, I think, 1 or 2 comments indicating that they were going to find the pattern and make it. It's a lovely, lovely wrap. Well, I have had to start it all over again.
Almost every day I get a phone call from Regina. Girl, you're not gonna believe this. I've had to frog this thing. I'm like, Regina, what?
Yes, I've had to frog it. And you saw how far I had gotten, and I'd gotten even further, and I realized I dropped a stitch, and it was so far down, it was difficult because it's a mohair, it's got that halo effect, and oh my God, it was such a headache. And so I just was taking it apart and realized when I got to some of the lower rows that I was taking apart, I couldn't take it apart because I had doctored the edges. I had done surgery on the edges because there was a stitch that I was working based on the pattern, and it was like these holes, and it does have yarn overs in the pattern, but somehow the holes were big on the edge. It was just wrong. So anyway, I've started it all over again, and I'm very happy with it's not finished, obviously. It's nowhere near finished, but I'm happy with what it's looking like, and I haven't had to doctor or do surgery to the edge, so it looks like something. So that I wanted to say. But Marian also mentioned that, you know, I already said, she said, don't start another project. And I was like, I am going to start another project.
And she always tells me, you are not the boss of me.
You don't tell me what to do. So I start. Yeah. So I started another project, as I mentioned, the one I just showed you, the open air wrap. And oh my God, I couldn't get 3 rows. And it's an easy pattern. It's not a difficult pattern, but something was happening, and my stitch count was off, and I kept having to frog it, and then it hit me. I wasn't doing the yarn over from the knit stitch correctly. It's a yarn over from a knit stitch, and then you're purling 2 together, and basically it's a pattern. It's a project that looks the same on both sides, so you're doing the same thing. And it's a fun knit though, but I was like, oh my God, Peaches was right. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And then when I realized on my own what the challenge was, I'm so happy that I continued and didn't let Peaches tell me what to do. Let's drink to that.
Let's drink to that. I'm not drinking to that. And don't spit on the yarn, Regina.
I will not spit on the yarn.
Don't spit on the yarn. So that wraps up kind of what's on and off our needles and what our acquisitions have been. And so we asked in our last video for you all to ask us your burning questions. And so we've kind of got them classified under a few sections. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
We've got about 5 with different questions around that. What are our hobbies outside of knitting? Then you've asked us some burning knitting questions, and then knitting in Atlanta, and then some general questions. So we'll answer as many as we can in our time together today, and those that we don't get to, we'll answer those over the course of the next several videos. So the tell us about yourself questions, we had one. I'll just kind of read them, and maybe you start, and then I'll chime in terms of myself. But people wanted to know what state that we were filming from, where we were from. So that's a similar question. Personally, I'd like to know a bit more about you, like where'd you grow up? What do you do for work? Why that job, family, major life events, that kind of thing. Respective backgrounds. How long have we been friends? Now that's a tale.
We did a whole episode for that.
I know. And then curious to know what we do for a living. So you want to start?
Sure. So we are both in Atlanta, and we're both Atlanta natives. I was not born in Atlanta, but my parents moved here when my twin brother and I were 6 months old. I was born.
So I think that qualifies you as a Georgia native.
I think so, but I just need to shout out that I was born in Clarksdale, Mississippi. Big ups to the place where the blues comes. So yeah, that's where I was born. I still have family there. My mother is a twin, and her twin sister is there. And so, so that's where I was born. But both of us grew up in the Southwest Atlanta area. And yeah. Oh, you know what? I want to just mention that the person who asked one of those questions asked or suggested that LL Cool J needs a hat. So, yes, LL Cool J will get a hat. Lenny Kravitz will get a hat.
Now,
he ain't getting no hat.
No.
He likes to wear like blankets
as scarves.
As scarves.
Chunky.
So he's gonna get a chunky. You know how much I love my chunky. He's gonna get a chunky.
And he's such a cutie.
He's so adorable. We love him.
Beautiful eye candy.
We love him. So he's going to get a chunky scarf. But yeah, I just had to throw that in there. So what else did she say she wanted to know?
So maybe I'll answer kind of. So Atlanta is home for me too. I was born in West Virginia though, and then lived in Virginia, the state of Virginia. And my family moved to Atlanta when I was 5. Just a quick story. Regina lived in the same apartment complex as my father's younger brother, one of his younger brothers. And so as we have been talking and reminiscing, we probably met when we were 5, 6 years old, playing when my brother and I have one brother, and probably met when we
were real young.
Real young, going to visit with my uncle. But my family, like I said, moved to Atlanta when I was 5, and it was just a great upbringing. Wonderful community, wonderful friends, wonderful support system. I went away to college. After I graduated from high school, I went to college in Massachusetts, to an all-women's college in Northampton, Massachusetts. Shout out Smith College. And that is where I learned to knit all of those many, many years ago. So that's a little bit of kind of the family dynamic. So it was me, my mom, my dad, my brother, and
I should shout out, I went to Hampton Institute when it was Hampton Institute in Hampton, Virginia. So I went to Atlanta as well.
Another
Yes.
commonality. So my father was a college librarian. He's deceased. But he was a librarian at Hampton Institute. So that's where we lived on campus before it became Hampton University, all of those many years ago. So that's another commonality that Regina and I have.
We have so many connections. I feel like we need to take another drink.
You think so?
Yes,
I think
course.
so too.
Yes.
To Hampton.
To Hampton.
And I got to turn my cup around.
You should know that swimming in this cup is cardamom pods and clove. So there's that. But yes, so college background.
College background. What do you do for a living? Do you want to share with your folks?
Sure. I work in the nonprofit social services space with specifically young people who are experiencing homelessness. So it is tough work out there. But it is the most rewarding work I have ever engaged in. And I can't imagine myself doing anything else.
And you've had a really varied working career. So
I have.
Maybe a little bit about what you did before that. And I do admire the work that she does in this nonprofit space. I mean, she really is a phenomenal individual. Even though we're doing this podcast together and I give her shit all the time.
All the time. Shit.
I do admire her. I'm grateful for our friendship. And I love the work that she does in the community. So, but just share a little bit about what you've done prior to what you're doing
You
now.
know, I feel like I've done everything except work in a traveling circus. I mean, when I graduated college, and I've lived in like 8 cities across the country. I worked for the Washington Post for many years because my background or my undergraduate degree was in communications. I had some real fantasies and dreams of being on air, being an anchor, but it was very competitive and I never pursued it. But anyway, that led to going back to graduate school and pursuing a graduate degree in museum studies. So I was a museum curator for many years. And then when I moved across the country to California, where I spent a good 14 years, I started working in the higher education space where I was opening doors for community college students and low-income students to gain entry into the California, the University of California system, and so that was a lot of hard work, but it was heart work as well. And then when I happened to come back to Atlanta, my mother was here. I was visiting her, and I was still working in higher education, and realized that she needed some support. And I never left. So that's when I came and started working in the nonprofit sphere.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And a little bit about myself. I was an economics major in college. My dad told me, because I'd wanted to major, I don't know, in something, I don't remember what it was. And he was like, you need to get an education where you can get a job when you get out of school. And it was a liberal arts college and they didn't have business degrees, so I majored in economics. When I graduated from college, I came back home to Atlanta and worked in a management training program at a local bank here in Atlanta for a year, and then worked at that bank for 10 years. When I left the bank, I went to do financial planning for a large reputable company, did that for a couple of years, worked as a broker for a brokerage firm, an online brokerage firm, one of the first online brokerage firms, for just a couple of months. And when I started working for that firm, I think I'd been there 2 weeks when a headhunter reached out to me to work for the company that I guess I can say I retired from, and it's so... That sounds so odd for me to say, but the firm that I retired from at 50 or 51, worked there for 16 years, and it was in the retirement space. So I did retirement planning and investment planning for colleges and universities and not-for-profit organizations. So I've always had an interest in the financial services, the financial investment space, because that's so important in terms of building legacy, being able to take care of yourself from a financial point of view, and so forth. So,
well, get down with your bad self.
Get down
with your bad self. We're drinking.
We're drinking. So my company offered a voluntary retirement program when I was 51. I was in graduate school full-time at the time. I'd been in school for almost a year. So I was working full-time, in grad school full-time. It was a weekend program, a condensed program. I got my MBA, executive MBA, so it was an 18-month instead of a 24-month program. And then I was also enrolled in a coaching certification program. So to be an executive coach, a business coach, a life coach, that I had just started too, and that was like a year-long program. So when this opportunity to accept the retirement package came along, I said, let me do that. And I did, and didn't think that I would not be working again because I was young. I'm still young. Even at 60, I still feel like I'm young. But fortunate enough that I have been a good saver and a good investor, and so have not really had to go back to work. When I decided to look for work again, one of my dear friends was very, very ill, And so I got an opportunity to spend the last year of her life with her, and that was really special for me. A mutual friend of ours. And then I kind of regrouped. I sunk into a little bit of a depression after that, but then got back into the groove of things. And then, of course, COVID hit. And and so then, really kind of started to see some things with my mom, who had had a stroke 30 years ago, but had lived independently for most of that time since. But I've realized that she needed me some too, and more too. And so there still may be a place for me out there in the work world in some capacity. I still feel like I have a lot to give and a lot to offer, but that's a little bit about my work background. So yeah, cheers.
We can't do enough of these.
To that. That's really good.
So good.
So are we married? Do we have kids, husbands, spouses, divorces, anything like that?
No.
No.
None of that. None of that.
Never been married. No children.
Same. Never married, no children. I have nieces and nephews.
Yeah, same here. I've got nieces and nephews. So I love to dote on them. And that's that.
There's one thing I want to call out, and this we can pivot to another question or however we want to move. But we got a question. Actually, several of you indicated that from the last or second episode, we had to have been drinking before we shot. Because we were giggling so hard before. We were like 3 minutes in and we were already giggling.
Yeah, we got a couple actually. Somebody said, y'all, sure that's your first drink? And somebody else said, y'all are too funny. You cracking yourselves and me up. How many glasses have y'all had?
Right.
So tell them the truth.
But
Regina.
then another person also said, can't be the first drink.
Tell them the truth, Regina.
We hadn't had anything to drink. I mean, that was our first drink. Isn't it the truth?
It is the truth.
Is that the truth?
That is the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah, we hadn't been drinking. So
there you have it.
Yeah.
So I guess that's really kind of enough about us.
I think so.
And, you'll learn more about us as you watch future podcasts. So you'll learn more about us. Other hobbies, do we do any other hobbies other than knitting? And so for me, I do. I have interest. So for many, many years, I was I was really into photography when it was the film days. My brother and I had a dark room in our basement growing up. We were both the photographers for our high school newspapers. I took a photography class in college, works in the dark room then, and I've always kind of enjoyed that on the side. I like to read. Somebody asked if we enjoy reading, and I do like to read. I've not read as much recently because I've been doing some volunteer work, and so, I've read, but not read for pleasure, let me say that, because I've been doing a lot for that volunteer work. But I do enjoy reading. As I said, my father was a librarian, and so when I was growing up and well into my adulthood, I would fall asleep with a book every night, and I'd wake up and it'd be laying right next to me in the bed.
As far as my interests, I have many, and I am a true Gemini. So my interests are often obsessions, and they can last anywhere from 2 days to 2 years. And so music is one of my obsessions. I love music. You can catch me at any kind of live performance. I just saw, I travel a lot for my job, which is another thing I love to do, travel. But I travel a lot for my job, and I saw Delfeo Marcellus and his band performing at a lovely little dive in New Orleans. So that's fun. I love that. I love to read as well. And just like with my knitting projects, where I have so many of them on needles, I have so many books that I'm in the middle of because I can't complete anything. So that's something about my reading habits. I read for pleasure. I love crime novels. So if you haven't read, here's a little plug for Easy Rollins. This is he's the sleuth that was created by Walter Mosley. There are probably 13 books in the Easy Rollins series. I love them all. So I love a good crime novel, and then I love biography. So
good.
That's what I love to do.
Right. Maybe we will table the other questions for our next couple of podcasts. But before we do that, maybe, because we did get some questions about this podcast, so maybe we answer those questions and then we'll wrap up. Does that sound like a plan?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So we did get a couple of questions about the podcast, and we answered some of this in our very first episode, our debut episode. The questions were, what made us come up with the podcast? Do we really knit for celebrities? You answered that. But what made us come up with the podcast? Are you guys going to be doing knitting tutorials? Are we going to be doing knitting tutorials? How do you both feel about your meteoric rise to fame? Last time I checked, you were at nearly 2K subscribers after only 2 episodes. So we want to answer that. And then how often will we be posting? So those are the questions, and we'll maybe just do a quick rundown. So how did we come up with the podcast, Regina?
Well, we were knitting in a group, and we talk about this a little bit in the first episode, but we were knitting with a group, and there was just all this banter going back and forth between me and Marian. And
hold a second.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, because you noticed that Regina's calling me Marian now. And in the other episodes, she's been calling me Peaches. So let me just backtrack for a little bit and talk about my nickname, my childhood nickname, Peaches. I do get it honest. So I told you all I was born in Charleston, West Virginia. Well, I didn't say Charleston, but it was Charleston, West Virginia. And my mom is from Atlanta. And when she was pregnant with me, she was craving fresh peaches. And she was pregnant in the wintertime, so peaches were not in season. And so they were going to name me something else, and that's a whole nother story that I may share in another video. But when I was born, her very best friend, because my mother's name is also Marian, so I'm named after her, and her very best friend said, well, Marian, you don't need a peach, because she'd sent all of her friends out anytime they were traveling. Can you see if you can find some fresh peaches for me? And nothing was available but canned or preserved. So her good friend said, well, Marian, you know what? You don't need a peach because you have a peach right here. And so that nickname stuck. You didn't know that, did you?
I heard you tell it.
You
I
heard me tell
the
that
story, yeah.
So that nickname stuck with me through, I would say, high school. So I can tell where people know me from. So if I hear somebody holler out Peaches, I know that's somebody from
way back
high school and earlier, right? And people who call me Marian, that's college on. So Regina was like, you know what? After our second video, she said, I know I keep calling you Peaches. And I realized maybe I shouldn't do that. So I commend you for calling
I'm trying.
me Marian.
She's trying. I don't even know Marian. I just know Peaches, but okay, there it is.
But if she slips up, if it slips up on these videos, that's okay. So I just wanted to give. So we were answering the question about how the podcast came to be.
Right. So we were part of a knitting group. We have friends that got us together and wanted to learn how to knit and wanted a place where we could get together and knit as a community. And there was just this natural banter back and forth between me and Peaches, not Mary. She says, I don't remember this, but she says that she had mentioned a podcast for the whole group.
I had, because there are 5 of us that knit together on a regular basis, and we've known each other since elementary school and or high school. And I had mentioned to them that we should do a podcast. And I'd mentioned that about 3, 4, 5 times the first time that we started getting together, the first 3, 4, 5 times that we started to get together, and nobody seemed interested.
Right.
So I just was like, oh, okay, well, let me just.
So then I approached her and said, you know, this banter that we have, you have me groveling all the time. You think you tell me what to do, and you don't. No. But I thought it was fun. It was lighthearted. It was, there was just a lot of personality that was kind of being exchanged. And they even noticed it.
Yes.
These friends even said, you girls are hilarious.
Because if you saw our group text exchange, we cut up.
So I reached out to Peaches and said, yeah, we should do a podcast. I was watching, I think Hoda and Jenna or something, and watching shows where folks are talking about nothing. I say this in the first episode but there's an audience and the conversation is lighthearted and fun. There's giggling, there's drinking. And I said, maybe we could bring that to a podcast near you. Mm-hmm. And because, Marian Peaches has
I've got her confused
because she is very familiar and has been knitting for 40 years, and she knows more about what's in the social media space than I do. And she said, you know, I don't think there's anything out there like it. Mm-hmm. And we toyed with names. I think I said in the first episode she wanted fiber and fizz. I was like, no.
One of my nieces came up with that name, and I thought it was cute.
It was cute, but it was not for us. And then I was thinking back at one of my favorite albums from 2012. It's by Branford Marsalis. It's called, and he's got a scarf coming. It's the Branford Marsalis Quartet, and it's called 4 MFs Playing Tunes. And that is what inspired Two Sistahs Knittin Talkin Shit. That's what we are. And
that's what we do.
I love that title, and that has drawn many of you in, just the title. So that's how that came to be. And then we said, you know, let's get together and see how we can do this. And we have done it. We did the thing.
We did the thing.
We did it.
Yeah. So are we going to be doing tutorials?
No. Oh, no.
Absolutely not.
No. Take a class. If you want to learn how to knit, take a class.
There's some wonderful local knitting stores
classes
out there where you can take classes, community colleges, and so forth to take classes. But no, we will not be doing tutorials.
No. We will talk about our mistakes of what we've learned, obviously, but we ain't teaching knitting. No.
Because these socks that I'm knitting that I showed y'all earlier, I'm taking a class. Because I'd never knit socks before, and they were intimidating. So I am taking a class at one of the local yarn stores here in Atlanta. So no.
And I took a class.
How often will we be posting? Our goal is every other week. Yeah, every other week. This is our last podcast episode for 2024, and we'll start again in January. And so when we post our first episode in January, you can count on every other week after that. And then the last question is, how do we feel about our meteoric rise to YouTube fame? Last time I checked, you had nearly 2,000 subscribers after only 2 episodes. You ladies rock. So, Regina, how do we feel about our meteoric fame?
I think it's sinking in. You know, we both came to this as a way to do what we love and to just share that with others. And obviously, as she said, Marian has been doing it for much longer than I have. But
I haven't been doing it though, really. I mean, I watch social media. Like I watch YouTube. Oh. And I have a personal Instagram account that is private.
But you've been knitting for 40 years. That's what I'm talking about. You've been knitting for 40 years.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, so sorry.
She's been knitting for 40 years. So I have not been, obviously, knitting very long. And I've forgotten what the question was. What's the question?
How do we feel about our media rise?
That part, yes. So, you know, we approached this to kind of just provide a space and some representation based on things that she knew about what the landscape of knitters and knitting podcasts look like. So we knew we were on to something. But I think we're both blown away and pinching ourselves. And we received a comment from, I don't remember the person's name, but it was a really powerful comment. And it went something like, I didn't realize there was a gap until I saw you in it. And that was after one episode.
Yes.
So then we realized that, wait a minute, what we are doing, what we're capturing, what we are mapping out for ourselves is something that people are responding to.
Yeah.
And so in that way, we are, I think I can speak for you, we are humbled, a little shocked. I mean, we knew that
we knew
people
we
knew we were onto something, but the fact that it's been so meteoric, it's spread like wildfire. And I know some of my personal friends who have had an opportunity to look at our videos have said the same thing. That is unheard of. That it's been so quick, that you all have been able to make this kind of space for yourselves in this broader kind of context. So it's been not even a month.
Not even a month. The 18th of December will be a month. And this video will be up on YouTube before the 18th of the month by then. And I would say that not only is this a space that's attracting knitters, it's attracting crocheters, it's attracting other crafters, it's attracting people who don't even craft.
Right.
Like to see.
Several have said, I don't knit. I ain't the kind of knit. But I like watching YouTube.
Right. The little banter that we have going on. So we are very grateful, very appreciative of all of the support and all of the love that we've gotten. And so, we're settling in to this meteoric rise, but it's been interesting for us to experience, not just to watch, but to experience for ourselves as well. So thanks for that question.
I think it's also worth noting that a lot of the questions and comments, more than anything, have been about the joy that we are exuding.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real blessing. If that is coming across, which is what we had hoped, we're having fun doing it. And so if you're having fun watching us have fun doing it, then we're all having fun. And
Absolutely.
that, I think, is...
and we need more of that.
We need more of that.
We do need more of that.
Yeah.
And so with that, we'll end by saying that we are going to post a poll in the community tab of our YouTube channel for the name. We narrowed it down to the top 4 suggestions that we got for names for all of you who subscribe to our page. So we will give you an opportunity to vote on the name that you like best. That will be up on the community tab the day after this video airs on YouTube. So we hope that you'll take an opportunity to vote on what you'd like to be called. And we also want to leave you with a closing question. And the closing question is, what are you grateful for? I'm always changing stuff up on Regina, and I saw that look like, what? We didn't agree on that question, but the closing question is, what are you grateful for in 2024, and what are you looking forward to in 2025?
I'm prepared to answer the question that we agreed on. I'm grateful for many things, and it would take another 40 minutes to list them. I'm certainly grateful for my friendship with Peaches and the space that we have to do this podcast. But this is the holiday edition, and I'm going to say what gets me in the holiday spirit, which is what we wanted to talk about.
Holiday spirit. Okay,
Well,
so yeah. You can answer that question too. What gets you in the holiday spirit?
Yeah. What gets me in the holiday spirit, and one of my favorite holiday songs, it's the music of the season. And the drink of the season. That gets me in the spirit. And but I grew up listening to the Jackson 5 Christmas album, and so I always play that during this season.
That's lovely. So what gets me in the holiday spirit? Well, I might not be in the holiday spirit because I got this t-shirt, which I'll try to stand up so you can see. And I can't read it upside down. What does it say?
It says, this is as jolly as I get.
I was a big Peanuts fan growing up.
Oh, it's Snoopy.
It's
I didn't even realize Snoopy was there. Okay.
And so sometimes I'm a bit of a Grinch during the holiday season because the holidays make me sad. But I do enjoy Christmas music. And I think the thing that gets me in the holiday spirit is the annual Christmas concert. Spelman and Morehouse Glee Clubs do an annual Christmas concert. And last week was the weekend of their concert. So they usually do 3 days. One of my nieces sang in the Glee Club there, but I'd been going in person to that concert for years, and it was just a joy to have her and to see her when she was a student at Spelman sing in the Glee Club. So I think that gets me in the holiday spirit. So yeah, you can answer down in the comments below what gets you in the holiday spirit too. And so we thank you for joining. We hope that you will if you like the video, that you will subscribe to the video, that you'll share it with your friends, that you'll comment as well. So thanks again for joining, and we will see you next time.
Happy holidays,
Happy
everybody.
holidays,
Wishing
everybody.
you and yours a wonderful holiday season.
Cheers.
Cheers.